I'm on call should you set yourself on fire. It's VGC the Video Game Podcast with me, Jordan Midler, Andy Robinson, and Alex Donaldson. This week, God rest the super game, but first, Alex Donaldson, was it a handball in the Celtic Motherwell game? Was it a penalty for you, Alex Donaldson? We go live.
The only football thing I'm aware of is I saw a clip where Waluigi was definitely offside in Mario Strikers. They need to patch that game.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know football at the best of time. Scottish football, come now.
Scottish football's where it's at. Andy, I don't know if you saw this, but following this handball decision, there was people out on the street at midnight throwing the ball to somebody and headering it with their hand in front of their face to prove how far it could go. Scottish football, best league in the world. Andy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm a bit coldy.
Yeah.
A bit full of cold.
Yeah, got that central voice on.
But I'm flying to Bit Summit tonight. So, thus, I'm going to go get my hair cut. So
I got that Summit.
You're getting ready to be super spreader on the plane then?
Yeah, well, yeah. Do you know what? As well, I've actually got a face mask out because I think I can't. Do you know what I mean? You can't fly to Japan with a. So I'm gonna on the window seat as well.
Nice. Nice.
I'm just gonna conk out. So I think I will. I'm gonna take a mask and get it
wise.
Are you going with VGC's official airline, British Airways?
VGC's official airlines half decent partner JAL. I'm not going on BA by choice anymore.
We had this discussion. Me and Jordan
still
had
not
this
refunding
discussion.
my bag, by the way. Still not refunding.
Really?
No, more than a year now.
We had this discussion before we started recording. Before you joined, me and Jordan were talking about airlines, and I was saying you've got to get off the BA train. They are absolutely horrendous. I'm
you know
Virgin
what?
Atlantic for life.
Oh.
I was literally about to say I'm a Virgin boy for life, and then I thought better row that one back. I've got proof. I've got a child,
Yes.
but no, I'm a Virgin Atlantic all the way. Just need them to bring their. I was talking to my Japanese teacher about this week. We were talking about how JAL is okay, but for some reason really expensive. ANA are, I think, equivalent, if not a little bit better in quality than JAL, but all their flight times are less convenient. BA suck ass, and then all the other Japan options are indirect. But Virgin used to, before COVID, have a Tokyo flight, and I really want them to.
Yeah, they did.
To bring it back.
They had BA had a Osaka direct flight as well.
Yeah, I was thinking of.
I don't think they ever even flew it. They brought it in like in 2020.
Right before everything went to shit. Yeah, I mean, like TGS, I was originally looking at. I was thinking of flying. I mean, you know this, Andy, because we talked about it endlessly. But I was originally thinking about on the return flight, flying from Osaka to Seoul to Korea, and then Virgin do a direct Korea flight to. They're still doing it, but it's just the concept of having a changeover. It's just I'd rather sit on the Shinkansen hungover. I think. Well, actually, I didn't originally think that. It was you who convinced me. That rather than mess about running around an airport you've never been to before trying to get to a connection on time, maybe you just go back to Tokyo a day early and sit on the Shinkansen wanting to die. So that's what I'm going to do.
I'm very much looking forward to going back to Japan this September, October time, TGS time, just before VGC Live. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we're also going to Seoul for a couple of days since my good lady wife is obsessed with all things K-pop and Korea. So this is I'm paying my tithe for the number of Pokemon centers she'll be dragged around. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be I'm always keen to go somewhere new. But I will be back in time for VGC Live, October 16th in Glasgow's Oranmore. Tickets just about still available. You may be thinking, oh, I've not got my ticket yet. Does that mean I'll be standing at the back with the likes of Pete Donaldson, Alex Donaldson, Chris String Donaldson? No, there is no assigned seating unless you're one of our directors. The directors will get a wee special seat, but it's just turn up, sit where you want. You won't even need to sit next to Andy Robinson because he will hopefully be on stage, but we don't know. We don't know quite yet. Andy, have you thought about your walkout song for VGC Live yet?
You asked me this before, and I hadn't prepared a joke before either. What's the 50 Cent one? Many Men.
many.
You can't steal Dringo's entry music.
That is Dringo's one, yeah.
That's very, very good. Alex Donaldson, I've not wrote the show yet, but I imagine you had a walk-on part. What would your walk-on music be? Something from Final Fantasy.
Yeah, well, that's the. I can't say the word I was thinking of. That'd be problematic. Get myself in trouble.
It's all right. You're unemployed at the minute. You can't be sacked.
I think I would have to just to underline where I stand in this battle against Scullion, who's not here to defend himself. I would have to have some Sonic the Hedgehog music, I think.
Nice. He's become Sonic the Hedgehog music expert du jour. He's been listening to nothing but. He's one of these absolute maniacs that keeps their Spotify like public attached to their Discord so you can see what they're listening to at any one time. And it's just been Sonic all the time. It's been Sonic, and then randomly it'll be like, I think Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy is like the Spider-Man music or something like that, which is clearly his way in being like, can you please turn this absolute mince off? But
I need this to culminate in Johnny Gioeli or John Senoi coming on the podcast to defend themselves.
I will apologise to absolutely no one. Get your tickets to VGC Live. Now we'll be doing a few little announcements. Maybe a few little announcements in early June. What could be going on? Look out for me on that stage. Jeff will be surprised. Also, patreon.com/video games chronicle.
The real Phil Spencer is available now.
Oh, Phil Spencer Des. What a get.
I think I'd still rather have Homes Under the Hammer, Phil Spencer, whatever he's on.
We should do a skit where he regenerates into the other Phil Spencer. Very expensive.
When we could get big Ken Kutaragi to come. I'm interviewing him like the day before at a different event.
Look, I don't think he'll attend, but I have a white whale of someone that I would like to feature in the show, and let's just say we have an in, but if he does it, I don't know. Anyway, patreon.com/video games chronicle to support. Patreon.com/video games chronicle to support this independent website. Independent media, it's the future you might have heard about, but it's genuinely a massive help. The more you support on patreon.com/video games chronicle, the more the website can be like this. Absolute merriment, fun, and a little sideways look at the video game industry. Alex Donaldson, you still unemployed? How far are we away?
I was never unemployed because I left my part-time gig at Game Network.
I broke up with her, mate. I ended things. She's off on that.
I left my part-time gig at Game Network to obviously run my own business. Although a funny thing happens when you've already got a business that's already running, which is you left that and you realise you're the ghost at the feast and everyone else is doing their jobs and actually you're just annoying because you're just involving yourself in things that were running without you. So, we're very, 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 very close now to, myself and a bunch of other ex-Gamer Network, and other things, I'm sure some of the people who, listen to this and are patrons of this will remember Video Gamer back in the day as well.
Who?
Some of the ex-Video Gamer guys and stuff before it turned into an AI slop house and all the rest are involved, and we're gonna have a bash, and I'll talk about it more when the time comes. But yeah, independent media is the future, and the way I see it is, what I would like is for what I want to do, and VGC to enjoy taking chunks out of corporately owned games media together
until we are a blob and we become a corporation.
Until we are the corporate machine, and then some. This is how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. Anyone that defects from VGC to the new alliance will be banned permanently and executed at VGC Live. Story number 1. SEGA confirms it's still working on its numerous reboots of classic IP despite cancelling the Super game. In its Q4 financial results presentation, SEGA quietly noted that it cancelled development of its ambitious Super game project, which was first mentioned 5 years ago and was going to consist of multiple AAA titles that cross over Sega's comprehensive range of technologies and go beyond the traditional framework of games. While the Super Game project is no more, Sega has reconfirmed that its previously announced reboots are still in development and unaffected by the Super Games cancellation. Stop right there. Alex Donaldson, what do you think the Super Game was? Was the Super Game the friends we made along the way? What was this supposed to be?
I think the Super Game was a very impressive thing to say on financial calls that was basically a euphemism for we're working to try and fold in all the AI tech and all the latest tech. And that was the idea of what made it super, right? But was it anything other than just a big... I mean, let us not forget, the other Super Game was that shooter. What was it called?
Hyenas,
yeah. And so I think that gives you a good idea, right? I think it's weird. Sega created a rod for their own back in terms of this appearing as a negative story, in the sense that, let's be realistic about it now, if they just said, yeah, we're working on a few quite big live service games with IP crossover potential and with AI technology and stuff like that, and then 4 years later said, that wasn't working, we've cancelled it, I think people would have just gone, oh, okay. But because they said Super Game, that is what has made it news. But at the end of the day, you know, the important thing that came out of that is when they had that trailer at the Game Awards where they had clips of Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi and Golden Axe and stuff. We know those are safe. So at the end of the day, what difference does it make? And
you've got Crazy Taxi, that's safe. Now would you like to gamble for the Super Game, young man? Andy, I'm investing in Sega as the next Capcom, let me tell you. I feel like they're setting themselves up for a hell of a run coming soon. When they start firing out these new old games, how do you think they will approach them?
I don't know, because this Super Game thing is like, they have midterm plans, don't they? So they have like 3-4 years and they go, well, in this period we want to do this. Like, so 3-4 years ago, making a live service game for Sega would make a lot of sense, right? There was these publishers, there was so the ones that didn't have the FIFA Ultimate Team or the GTA Online were struggling because if they had a year where they didn't have a strong slate, then they had little to fall back on. So it kind of made sense. But then obviously the industry's slipped on its own vomit in the kebabs gone everywhere in the last kind of 2 years. So now you'd be going, yeah, don't launch a Super Game, don't do it. Super Game made a lot of sense 4 years ago, not now. And I kind of think the same way about these. You just wouldn't bet on anything anymore, right? It doesn't, like, if Capcom were reviving Jet Set Radio, you'd be like, it's probably going to be good, right?
Yeah,
they're good at budgeting their games well. They scope them well. They know how much it's going to sell, and then rather than building a game for what they want it to sell, they would be building a game for what they think it will sell, and then it will steadily go along and it'll be a success. Whereas I don't think Sega are going to do that, or I don't think Sega have been doing that outside of Yakuza.
But do you worry that there's too much of that?
I wonder what a Jet Set Radio, what a Golden Axe, what Crazy Taxi looks like now. I mean, Shinobi was great. That's we gave it 5 out of 5. It's a brilliant game. No one really talks about that. I think probably it deserved more plaudits, but I just don't see whether, unless these games are like small things. And I've spoken to I've bumped into people in Japan who are working on these games. Like they seem to be big productions.
The challenge is, I mean, we invoke the holy name of Capcom, right? And the difference is, Capcom doesn't have an ultimate team or whatever, right? That's the interesting thing is, when we talk about this, we say the thing that keeps an EA going or whatever is an ultimate team or Apex and things like that. And Capcom doesn't actually have that. It doesn't have one of those games that everyone's playing. But the thing that Capcom has nailed is their back catalogue sales are immense. So we're doing this the week of the financial reports. You look at Capcom's financial report last year.
I think it was 80%, wasn't it?
Something like
that, catalogue sales.
So their top selling game last year was Resident Evil Requiem, right? Which sold nearly 7 million copies, obviously. But their second best selling game was Resi 4. nearly 4 million for that. Village, 3.5 million. Resi 3, 3.5 million. Resi 2, 3 million. DMC 5, nearly 3 million. Resi 7, 2.6 mil. Street Fighter 6, 2 million. Street Fighter, I think, is actually the quiet, like, sign they've really unlocked it at Capcom, because the retention, the number of people, like the Steam daily active users and stuff, is so much higher than 5, and actually so much higher than 4, which everyone considers the grand revival, you know? And then RE6, 1.8 million copies. 5, 1.5 million copies.
But I think so. So 83% of their sales, this is their, we'll get to this story later, but it's their biggest year in game sales. And more than 83% were back catalogue games, right? But when I'm thinking about Sega and I'm looking at Capcom now, I think it goes under discussed how big Resident Evil is. I think with these financial results, it's cleared 200 million lifetime. And I saw that there's only 2 Japanese, I think it's only Final Fantasy, and I can't remember the other one.
Well, I was saying they should be catching...
Pokemon, surely?
They should be catching up and passing Final Fantasy.
Probably outside of Nintendo these.
Oh, right,
but it's... So if you didn't have a Resident Evil, if you're Capcom, right, which is basically what Sega Sega are probably doing, is that they've left these IPs dormant for so long, and even Sonic, right, it prints merchandise, but the Sonic games have never like sold mega numbers. So if you're like someone looking to emulate Capcom and you don't have a Resident Evil, it just makes it that little bit more difficult, right? Is Crazy Taxi going to sit and sell? And sell,
well, here's
and I even think about some of these games, right? Because their roots are in arcade, which Capcom's roots are take Street Fighter are not. These games were made on PS1, right? And it's like, how do you modernize some of these games when? Because they make a lot of, when they decided to start this project and resurrect these brands. It probably made a lot of sense when they're doing the Super Game shit, right? Because in my head, Crazy Taxi is like that Skate reboot that EA's just done. Like user created content and live service, and it's like, yeah, we could do that, but I don't know really what it looks like.
Designed to depress.
I think
the Sega situation, like obviously they're doing these older games, but they also have stuff like they've got a new Virtua Fighter that's obviously the first new one in a long time. They've got a sequel to Alien Isolation, which is a game a lot of people really love, but I don't know what that does moving the needle wise. Alex, in terms of the scope of these games, would you be looking for something that's like a bit smaller? Like there's obviously an appetite at the minute for slightly smaller games, and surely some of these concepts, like you don't need a 40-hour Crazy Taxi, surely. I
think this is what Andy was saying, right? I don't think you necessarily get a 40-hour Crazy Taxi. You get a Crazy Taxi that is designed to be played forever.
Yeah,
and it's like, and to be fair, so is the original Crazy Taxi. You could play that game forever in terms of chasing scores and stuff. But I do think Andy hit the nail on the head in terms of Resident Evil as a franchise is a franchise a bit like Final Fantasy that sort of, well, Resident Evil in this instance was born at the dawn of video games as more than just toys, I guess I would say. And I don't mean that to throw any shade at, I'm a Mega Drive Super Nintendo kid. But the PS1 was when games really shifted from being toys for kids and became more of an art and entertainment form in their own right. And so Resident Evil more naturally progresses to become that. And Final Fantasy, likewise, naturally progresses. In many ways, doesn't even need to progress. It just stays stagnant, and he's already like that. Crazy Taxi is not that. And it's like, some of it is just so hokey. Like, I think what you have to do to Streets of Rage... Like, if you were doing Streets of Rage and you were doing it as a big budget, expensive, to your question, Jordan, AAA game, you're basically making your own version of the Warriors, right? Like you're making a GTA-esque game about gangs and gang warfare, and you're literally, I would be leaning into that Warriors come out to play. In fact, with how popular Street Fighter is, if I was Capcom, I'd be making a Final Fight game that was that. But I digress. And, Golden Axe, again, if you're going to reinvent that, you look at sort of... I'm very curious. I'm sure they will be watching it, but you've got this Masters of the Universe, this He-Man movie coming out.
Oh, yeah.
And I reckon they will be, at least in a marketing sense, watching that pretty close Because if that finds an audience, that's your Golden Axe audience. But the most popular character in Golden Axe is a little wee dwarf in green, who's not particularly visually appealing or exciting or original. And it's like, you can reinvent all that, but the problem is in the process of reinventing it, you create something that isn't actually that recognisable to the new IP. And at that stage, the question is it worth reviving this old IP, or would you have been better off just creating something new out of whole cloth that is built for this generation? And the way you make that work is you make cheaper games. Shinobi's the perfect example. It's not a super expensive game. It's made within the parameters of the original Shinobi games, and they go forward with that, and that was really good. The challenge is, obviously it's not been a millions and millions and millions of copies performer, but at least it worked, and at least it was good. And yeah, I think, for some of these IPs, I just don't... It's an interesting thing about Sega in general, right? If you think about it, you think about the Saturn versus the PS1, Sony was making, and Sony had via other publishers, all these games that were sort of pushing the medium in that it's entertainment, it's going to challenge movies direction. And Sega was making Virtua Cop, Knights.
Oh, come on now. Bring it back.
Fighting Vipers, all great games, but really the only game that Sega made that sort of fits into that modern context in that early 3D era was Shenmue.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah.
And that's obviously that one is not...
They're not touching that with barge pole, are they?
Yeah, so they're sort of, they don't have that thing they can convert as easy. And actually, I think the funny thing is the same thing has happened to Nintendo, but the difference is Nintendo's carved out this separate niche where it doesn't matter to Nintendo. But even then, you look at those very Hollywood-feeling cutscenes in that Star Fox reboot and you go, Nintendo's trying to figure that out now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
While we're doing Football Manager for Sega, Alex, I wanted to ask you, what's the word on the ground in Sonic Town? Like, where are the fans happy? Like, are we due a new 3D?
They're never happy.
Well, yeah, that's true, because they're Sonic fans.
There's a grand... I legitimately have a grand theory about this, which is the funny thing about Sonic, and there's not many game franchises like this, it is a properly generational franchise. So, you've got the old generation of people who played the Mega Drive games, and then you've got the Dreamcast generation of people, Dreamcast GameCube, and then you've sort of got the modern generation of people, and their tastes are all calibrated very differently. And so
they have to be, because the ones who are young enough to be playing games post Dreamcast have just been playing a load of old shite.
Well, okay, but the point is, it's very, very difficult for the developers to pass this, and pretty much impossible for them to please everyone because of how divergent the camps are. And you compare that to Mario, or even Nintendo aren't sitting there between a rock and a hard place when they're making Mario Wonder or Odyssey. They're just, because the Mario base is sort of more transient. It's more transient and more of a single whole as well, whereas the Sonic fan base, is weird because it is segmented into these groups. And the other franchise that is the same is Final Fantasy. Is why they always struggle, because depending on when you came in, you have completely different ideas about what a Sonic game or a Final Fantasy game should be. However, I think on the whole, the Sonic fan base is happier than it's ever been, because the movies are great. They're better than the Mario movies.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
The fourth movie, I think everyone's super excited to see what they do with it. And I think a lot of people liked Frontiers. When Frontiers came out, I was on VG 24/7, and when we did our Game of the Year awards, we never used to do proper Game of the Year awards. We just used to do stupid alternative Game of the Year awards. We were more Big Fat Quiz of the Year than Jules Holland or whatever. And we gave Sonic Frontiers an award that was something like the best game that is slightly crap, yet you nevertheless really like it. And we gave that to Sonic Frontiers, because that was the whole thing with Sonic Frontiers. It was sort of kind of weirdly crap, and you played it and you were like, God, what were they thinking of? And yet, it sort of worked. And so I'll be curious about Sonic Frontiers 2. I mean, my opinion has always been just let the headcanon guys cook. For God's sake.
Well, that's enough, Sega. But just before we leave that, Alex, did you know that Sonic the Hedgehog has really good hearing?
I did not. Why is that?
Because he's got his left ear, his right ear, and his Sonic front ear. Thank you very much. That's the first time I've told that joke on this podcast. Story number 2. PlayStation exec says the next few years of unannounced games is unbelievably positive. There are no dire times ahead for this industry. Christian Svensson, Sony Interactive Entertainment's VP of second and third party content, was speaking to the games business, not familiar, about the future of the games industry at a time when layoffs, studio closures, and turbulent player spending still regularly occupy news headlines. Svensson's team is responsible for supporting developers who want to make games for PlayStation 5 and thus has a unique view of what companies have planned for the upcoming years. He said that based on games he knows are coming, he believes that developers and publishers are making very smart decisions and that the games industry should feel more comfortable about the future. Andy, is this the great post-GTA glut of games that we're expecting to happen? Because I think we're in for a banging period after that stupid game actually releases.
Well, I mean, he can see all the games in development and plan for 3, 4, 5 years' time, but he doesn't see how many of them will be cancelled between now and then, inevitably.
Concord 2? That will be a banger.
Yeah. So the intention is unbelievable, but they have to bring these games out. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of singing the hymn sheet a little bit here, isn't he? I mean, it's
definitely
his job. He's not going to be like, yeah, it's a bit concerning, to be honest. make some games.
Yeah, people should announce some games. But surely there are, like we all know in this chat, of many games that are waiting to go until GTA is out the way, and there's stuff that, like, Sony have good stuff that they've just not spoken about yet. Smaller scale stuff, obviously, but there's stuff that will that red meat for the base, the old Hearts and Minds releases of some catalog titles that we've referred to and openly said multiple times on this podcast. But what do you think of this?
I think two things can be true, and what I mean by that is I do believe that there's a lot of games that are sort of either being held back or their dev schedules have been deliberately timed to place them after the GTA bomb has gone off. And that means I think we will get a flood, and it can often be these things, you know, it's like buses, you know, you wait for ages and then a shed load of really good games come along at once. So I think he's right when I think he's probably correct when he says that, although like Andy says, you can't really tell how many of those are going to get canned. However, it's a bit like, God, 4 years ago, we were going, this is it, Xbox is back on track. They're going to have Fable, they're going to have Perfect Dark, they're going to have this, they're going to have that, they're going to have Blade, and then half of this stuff hasn't emerged, or some of it got canned, and then you're like, oh, you know, yes, we've still got Fable, but... So, it's sort of, the situation's changed, and the other thing is, it is totally possible for us to get an absolute slew of really good, really amazing games, and still have it be a really difficult time for the industry, have loads of those games struggle to find an audience, people have less money, the world's going to hell in a handcart, there's problems with hardware, and I think Dringo has discussed this on the pod before, but like the whole idea of if all this memory shortage continues, it's not just about the uptake of new owners buying PS5s, it's what happens as PS5s break and people literally can't afford to replace them. Because the price has gone up so much. And so it's sort of like, so part of me is like, yeah, of course there's going to be loads of really good games out after GTA. And to give a specific example, a very me example, right? It's like, we talked about Capcom. Square Enix has had this big adjustment, and they've had very few really big games come out for a while. They are right on the cusp of all the work they've been putting on in the background paying off and releasing several really big, hopefully really good games all at once. But at the same time, it's that line from Titanic, right? When there's the business guy from the White Star Line that owned the ship, and he's like, "This ship can't sink. It's brilliant. It's amazing. We've got we spent all this money on it. It's incredible." And the guy who designed the ship turned to him and said, "She's made of iron, sir. She can and she will." and it's sort of a little bit of that, right? It's like if the headwinds in the world continue to be really bad, much of which is out of our control as an industry, but then also you've got things like we don't get dev costs down, we don't get team sizes to be more sensible, we let AI interfere in the wrong ways, which creates more work and creates more disasters, then yeah, we could be in a really bad situation. However, he's probably right that there's a lot of really good games coming.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's notable that these comments come about 2 months after Herman Hulst, the studio's boss at PlayStation, when he's announced the closure of Bluepoint Demon Souls remake studio, where he warned that rising development costs, slowed industry growth, changing player behavior, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. While I know this is hard news here, I'm confident in the direction we're headed. Creativity, innovation, and building unforgettable experiences for players remain the heart of PlayStation Studios, he said. And then, of course, after that, they raised the price of all the PlayStations by $100. So it's definitely not rosy.
The Bluepoint one in particular, I think Bluepoint is a great point because it speaks to, it's one thing, right? I mentioned Xbox earlier, and Microsoft choosing to cancel Perfect Dark and close the initiative. Whatever we make of that, right? The initiative was not a studio that had shipped a game, and although apparently it was finally starting to come together right around the time it got cancelled, it took them a long time to get something to come together. And so you can sort of, from an evil corporate perspective, you can understand why that studio got closed and why that game got cancelled. Bluepoint looked like a future talent as a studio. It's like, and to use a sporting analogy, it's like if you're in American football and you get a really good young quarterback, but your offensive line sucks. And so you're letting this young kid get hit over and over and over again. And he's getting concussions and he's getting injured. And you're basically ruining his career. And then you lose an all-time great. And the funny thing about Bluepoint is I look at Bluepoint and I'm like, that was probably a future great, that could have been a future Naughty Dog. Yeah. And it sort of got suffocated in the cradle. But all the signs from all the things it had made and all the work it had done up to that point suggested that could have been something really special. And I think that actually is one of the things that I look at and I'm like, is that a real sign of a problem in 10 years' time in terms of where we're at in the studio? Or maybe we've just hit this weird plateau where we've got so many big name studios now. Do you need another Naughty Dog when Naughty Dog exists? I don't know. But yeah.
You need another Naughty Dog when Naughty Dog's taken 8 years to put out a game. You need to get these people on different cadences. Sony must be... I still maintain that Insomniac is the greatest acquisition in video game history. The amount of games they have put out for Sony is absolutely ridiculous. PS5 has no games as a common refrain. Imagine they didn't have Insomniac games. They would have negative games somehow. I think it's... Sony has Insomniac, Sucker Punch, they're putting out good stuff. Yep. Naughty Dog, they put out their once a generation, will suck up all the oxygen, will probably be very impressive game. But back in the PS3, PS4 days, they had your Liverpools, your smaller studios that were just firing stuff out to plug the gaps. And I think they've got away from that pretty spectacularly. But
Insomniac are brilliant. The thing about Insomniac is they're just quietly good.
Yeah.
And so the funny thing about the sort of games they make is if Spider-Man had been exactly the same game, but had been they're the perfect people to make licensed games. Because if Spider-Man had been a new IP, but had been exactly the same game of exactly the same quality, it would not have sold 33 million copies.
Yes.
But you pair a studio like that with an IP that people like, and it just goes. And so I think they've got the Rosetta Stone for those guys now. Obviously they'll still make Ratchet and make the odd original thing here and there, but if they're going to create their own Marvelverse, they're sorted.
And I always see people being like, I want Insomniac. I wish Insomniac weren't forced to make these games. And it's like, first of all, they're absolutely not forced to make these games. And second of all, I think people underrate how many developers would kill to be working on Spider-Man and Wolverine and the X-Men. I think Insomniac in a great place. I'm curious to see what Sucker Punch does going forward. Like especially with the film, I assume they will do another Ghost of, but there is a groundswell of people that want Infamous. I'm under the impression that there is an Infamous thing happening somewhere else in PlayStation at the minute, not tied to them, but I think a third Ghost of is probably pretty sensible. Also, we've got Guerrilla, who are eventually going to do that Horizon 3. But yeah, it's a weird lineup for PlayStation at the minute. They need to get that little ape back. That little ape and the rest of the little apes. It can't just be one ape, because it'd be a boring game if you were collecting one ape. But I was talking about this with Chris. Chris brought up Wipeout. I was like, I'd love a new Wipeout, man. That Wipeout Omega they did on PS4. What a game, man. A new Wipeout would be great.
They're missing weird little games. And actually, this is one of the things where you can say that Microsoft kicks Sony all around the pitch, basically. Because, they've got Double Fine and Obsidian and people like that making these weird, small little things. Like, to give a really... Like, The Outer Worlds 2 is not a game that would get greenlit, produced and released at PlayStation. Mm-hmm. Now, there's a profit line argument about, well, it doesn't sell. If it doesn't sell 10 million, what's the point? But also, The Outer Worlds 2 is a really good, fun, slightly more constrained in size RPG. And it shows that money isn't everything, because it's better than Starfield. So it's sort of, yeah.
Interesting. Andy, if you were to revive one PlayStation franchise, what would it be?
That's a good question.
Double points if you can give it to a studio specifically.
I'd revive the Japan studio classic Rain.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
And I'd give it to Hideo Kojima.
Well, he's got a Sun game and he's a Rain
the character
game
Rain.
Yeah. Oh, they've got
only see her
got
in the rain.
Yeah.
You know what I'd bring back?
Go for it.
SingStar.
Oh, SingStar.
Because not everybody wants to have to buy. Not everybody wants to have to buy a karaoke machine. It's one of those things. Like so I bought my wife for Christmas a karaoke machine, and it's like nearly 200 quid, and it's really good. But like, part of me thought to myself, Sony could have had that, and I would have paid 100 quid. It would have been half the money. For me to pay, and it would have been a good. And if random Korean karaoke company can set up the infrastructure, surely Sony can.
Yeah.
Or Microsoft. They had, what was it called? Lips.
Well,
the microphones were really nice.
They were. They had the little LEDs all the way down. Yeah. Lips to me will always be the radio station in GTA 3.
Well, we're going to go and get our lips around some caffeine during this break. When we come back, we'll be talking about SNK and Capcom. We're going around the houses this week. Remember, patreon.com/videogameschronicle, and we'll see you in a minute. And we are back. Story number 3, Tekken boss Katsuhiro Harada has joined SNK. An announcement published on Tuesday, Harada confirmed the formation of SNK versus Studios in Shigawa, Tokyo, where he will act as the CEO. According to Harada, the VS and VS Studios name holds various meanings, including video game soft. I'm not having that. The spirit of versus, challenging tradition. Quote, VS Studios' philosophy is beyond the tradition crafted to perfection, he said in a statement. We will combine technology, sensibility, and world-class expertise to pursue the ultimate. From a free, open, and spacious environment, we will generate new ideas and create memorable games.
Why do Japanese studios always do this?
It's like
it's their like energy drink description. Like they feel like they have to justify. Like it's almost like they'd be called like, yes, we are Shitsoft, and we are named that because everybody has to shit.
That's the name of my new website.
And sometimes you shit and it is bad, and sometimes you shit and it is good, but we all shit. And on our business cards, we've all got a different kind of shit. Like, I'm cool shit.
Sometimes it's a bit
He's
runny.
like bad shit. He's the shit.
Lots of different interpretations. Alex Donaldson, you are a fighting game correspondent. You're in the trenches. What did you make of this? Not super surprising, but still a big dunt.
Well, I will say the interesting thing is the way they think about the word versus in Japanese. It could, because the obvious thing is to look at this. You look at a studio called Versus, and you think he's going to make a fighting game, but it can also be used to signify like a contrast, opposition, one thing to another thing. So that's why, to bring my other nerd world round into this, that's why that game was called Final Fantasy Versus 13, because the idea was it was supposed to be the opposite to FF13. So
if he's not making a fighting game, I will come on this podcast dressed as a chicken.
I think he probably is, but all I'd say is it can mean that as well, and so it could be a bait and switch where it's like you expect him to make a fighting game and actually
he's talking a load of old nonsense.
And well,
he's made Tekken for 30 years. He's done Tekken. He's joined SNK.
But I had interviewed
he's not making
him,
Ace Combat, is he?
But I'd interviewed him a few times over the back end of his Namco career, and on multiple occasions he sort of intimated that he really wanted to try and do some sort of action spin-off to Tekken again, like Death by Degrees back in the day.
What a cracker.
And that it always sounded like he wasn't really getting the buy-in to do it. And so that's actually the thing that I'm thinking. I'm like, is he just going to make a fighter? My question, if he makes a fighter, is I have no doubt it's going to be a 3D fighter, because SNK doesn't need another 2D fighter. The question is then, is it going to be a fist fighter, or is it going to be a weapon fighter? So is it going to be Tekken or Soul Calibur? But before that, my question is actually, is he making a fighting game, or is he going to make something that's more like Ninja Gaiden or whatever? And maybe it's a springboard. That's the other thing. Maybe they make a game. Maybe the deal is Versus Studio makes their Ninja Gaiden-esque game, and that leads directly into their fighting game in which that character is a star, you know. The reverse Shenmue, because obviously Shenmue started as a Virtua Fighter RPG, right? But I think he probably is just making a 3D fighter. But the Versus name does give me pause for thought, because I know that it can also mean contrast, it can also mean opposition. As the other thing, it could just mean opposition to him in the sense that I didn't leave Bandai on the best terms and I want to destroy Tekken now.
Well, he's I mean, Tekken, obviously, the last game had a difficult launch, right? I mean, and he's, not many people know this, but he was like basically in charge of all of their like marketing and comms, right, in Japan.
Yeah.
His argument was basically, I heard, was, well, nobody's spoken to more foreign journalists than me, so therefore I should be in charge of it. I've heard an amazing story where friend of ours was called by Bandai Namco to have a conversation with their comms boss about a story, and they turned up. And it was just Harada in sunglasses in a meeting room. And he's like, you know, you can see like his power that he had there, right? He wasn't just a Tekken guy. He was a general manager of the company. Like he was quite high up. He had his kind of fingers in a lot of pies. I mean, last time I interviewed him, it was at like the boardroom on the roof of like Bandai Namco's new building. So maybe that created some tension. That if you're not the Tekken guy, but you're also this guy, then, you know, I don't know. Maybe he wants to spend more time running Harada's Bar, which, by the way, is the greatest YouTube channel. If you've not seen it, Harada has a bar, and he does like a terrace house-esque like a show where people come to Harada's Bar and they have a chat. Like Ken Kutaragi, I think, is one of the best episodes. I'm going to hunt down Harada's Bar and go there.
This week's guest, Andy Robinson from VGC the Video Game Podcast. Yeah,
he's not speaking because we've got the football on.
Celtic have just won the league. They've had another dodgy penalty. Alex, there's no chance that they've just paid him a load of money to come and make King of Fighters a going concern, is there?
I don't know. I said at one point, the thing is, the new Saudi investors in SNK have high hopes. I think I tweeted at one point before it came out that I had been told by someone close to the matter how much they had said they wanted King of Fighters, the new one to sell, the Ronaldo King of Fighters. And I laughed. I barely laughed when I heard the number. I could not, because it was so unrealistic for KOF. And yeah, so I think they've got high hopes. And I think if KOF isn't working, and KOF has always been, Street Fighter's lesser brother. I'm sorry, but it's the truth, right? So you can't expect to pump a load of money into it and sell more than Street Fighter unless you do something really special. But Tekken has always been a more worthy rival. So I think there is a market, and Harada knows his stuff. So I think inevitably Harada's going to help out on KOF because he knows fighting games so well, and he's so embedded into the FGC. He will be able to be a really good ambassador for KOF at all the events and stuff like that. And don't forget that the Saudis now own Evo as well. So it's
brilliant.
So it's all tied together in that sense. But I will be deeply curious. My suspicion is I reckon it's quite a strong chance it will end up being a weapon fighter.
Well, if the Saudis are interested in buying this podcast, podcast at videogameschronicle.com with a good offer, and we will say whatever you want. Story number 4, we touched on this earlier, but Capcom just sold more games than any year in history. We went over some of the numbers earlier, but in total, Capcom sold 59.7 million games during the business year, up from 51.87 million last year, driven by the ones Resident Evil Requiem. Capcom said that 83.7% of its game sales were from catalog titles, while a huge 93% of the games were sold as digital download versions. That's absolutely crazy. Alex Donaldson, that's probably the most notable number here because we know Capcom were doing well. But what do you think of that 93% digital number? That's crazy to me.
I mean, that's a lot lower if you take out PC. Well, it's not a lot lower.
That's what I was about.
PC.
That's what I was about to say. Is Capcom is of all the Japanese publishers, they are the one that has been most successful in the switch to being a PC first publisher. And so I think it's over, right? If you're one of those people who's like, if you're one of those people who's like physical games only, it's over. Like the future of physical games is special editions and companies like Limited Run Games and things like that. Is Limited Run the one that takes people's money and then takes like 18 months to deliver it, or is that a different one?
Couldn't possibly say.
It depends on platform as well, though, right?
But it depends on.
Nintendo's still a lot higher. It's still a lot higher on physical.
But it's dropping like a stone, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not. You'd be surprised if it wasn't. Not just because of the digital native, kind of kids growing up now who've got no attachment to physical games, but also the fact that these companies have been pushing this for ages, right? It's in their interest. I mean, Nintendo are seemingly aggressively trying to transition its more hardcore physical users over with by pricing the digital games cheaper, by having the game key cards.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought about it. My kid has a Switch 2, and she's got a bunch of download games, and then a few cards that I picked up on Amazon cheap, like Gabby's Dollhouse, the game, and stuff like that. And she finds it annoying having to switch cards.
Yeah, because
she's so used to on every other device she's ever owned. I don't know, but yeah, it's as far as Capcom goes, I think the picture it paints is two pictures. One is they are really, really strong in terms of PC, but two, yeah, obviously there's a grander narrative, but it actually I think speaks greatly to the success of the PC thing. The thing that I take from this is we touched on this earlier. The strength of Resident Evil, that top 10 is dominated by Resident Evil. But then it's those tails, because like Pragmata obviously is not in this reporting period, but has done really well. So the question now is like, will Pragmata have that sort of Resident Evil-esque tail? And can they bequeath that Resident Evil-esque tail to Onimusha, to Dead Rising? And that's actually the other thing. They had a slide.
It's kind of good. It shows how linear games can be successful as well, right? That all of these games, like some people will play Requiem and then go back and play Village and 7 and go and revisit some of these games. Whereas if you play Monster Hunter Wilds, you're not going to go back and play Worlds, are you?
No. But I'd just say, well, yeah. I suppose Monster Hunter is more transient.
So I mean, Yakuza is probably another good example that people might, if they kind of brought into the series, they might go back and play older ones.
But they are, that's the other. They need to find another another Resident Evil. Basically, I think they've been very successful at converting. I think this is going to be a critical year for Street Fighter. I'll be really curious. They always announce the new season of characters at SGF, but traditionally year 4,
Kenny Omega. I don't care if he did. I know he did mocap, but I want actual Kenny Omega in Street Fighter, please.
You could just apply that to everything. By the way, Capcom always announce X.
Well, yeah, but it's traditional for them to It's traditional for them to do their yearly Street Fighter, announce who the characters are going to be for the next calendar year or the next 12 months at SGF, right? And that's fine, and that's going to happen again, I expect. But in the cycle of a Street Fighter game, year 4 is usually around the time you get a refresh. It's usually around the time they rename the game Super Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 Champion Edition, whatever. They make some changes to the menus and stuff like that to make it feel a bit more like a new game. And crucially, they have a new box in stores and a new SKU on the digital storefronts. And it feels like they need to do that. This could be a really big year for Street Fighter, because if they do that and the film's really successful,
man, I feel old.
That's
Street Fighter 6 was at the first Summer Game Fest, I think.
Probably, I think it was before.
Well, I'm leading with Summer Game Fest there rather than. It was definitely. I think it was announced and playable at Summer Game
probably,
Fest.
yeah. Anyway, but it is, yeah. It's hard to think that game is getting that old. And the other thing from this, from I know this segment is technically about how many games they sold, but the other thing in this segment that people might want to know that they might not have seen, is they had a slide where they were like, these are our important IPs that we view as active and important IPs. And on that list were the things you would expect: Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, and so on and so forth. But Street Fighter. But also they had Devil May Cry, which is obvious. After the success of the anime, they were not going to not make another one of those.
Oh, yeah.
But also Ace Attorney and Dead Rising were on that list as well. Like great big pictures of Phoenix and of Frank.
I didn't read into that slide at all.
It
was kind of like you said, like IP we're working on for remakes, remasters, and revivals, and then there's just a list of all the stuff they've done in the last couple of years.
I think
like Dead Rising, they recently did it last year, right? Was that remaster?
I think if you want a list of IP where Capcom will release games in the next 2 years, that's the list.
Yeah, I mean, it's a chicken and egg thing for me. Is that those are their IPs, right? I mean, there's no. You wouldn't look at it from the opposite direction and go, "Oh, Dino Crisis isn't on it, so they're not working on it." It's like, no, they've just listed IPs that are their big ones, and they have recently done something.
I mean, yes and no, because like you say that, but like the last actual like new Ace Attorney game was like 10 years ago. Proper new.
Oh, but I'm sure they've had something Ace Attorney recently, haven't they?
No, they've had like they've re-released like Trilogy and stuff like that, but it hasn't even been remasters. It's just been.
Haven't they done something in the last year or are doing something? I'm not an Ace Attorney guy.
2024, they did.
Right, it's just they've just got someone who makes the PowerPoints to go and like, look, this is the slide on the revivals. We've done this and that.
If we're talking specifically about Ace Attorney, they literally haven't done a new one since 2016. They have done 4 games since.
I just don't think that they're hinting on like new shit.
I don't think they're hinting. What I'm saying is, I take from that slide that Ace Attorney will not just be. They've run out of things to reissue, right? They've reissued everything that previously existed already. That means if it's going to be an ongoing concern, they've got to make a 7th one. They've got to actually make a 7th one.
I think the most interesting thing from that is that they predict, so they've had a record year for game sales this year, and they predict to be 10% higher in the current year.
Catalogue sales. Catalogue sales and what?
I've not crunched numbers, but they will break it down to catalogue and to new games.
I would expect a new Resident Evil this year, right?
But I mean, even if it is catalogue sales, right? Resident Evil Requiem's done 7 million. There's a 7 million shape hole. Is Onimusha going to do 7 million? Don't think so.
Well, I anticipate probably there'll be a Resident Evil remake, and I don't know, maybe we get a Dead Rising 2 Deluxe remaster.
I mean, they've said they're doing Monster Hunter expansion, right?
And actually, that's the big one, right?
And they need that to land. They sold another like 100,000 copies, I think, in this quarter.
Wilds is the big disappointment.
Ground to a halt.
Yeah, and that expansion is going to be real make or break stuff for them.
I think what's it called?
Iceborne, Icebreaker, Ice something.
The expansion for Worlds really like supercharged its sales.
I think that the thing we're missing here is that they're going to revive Lost Planet, and the Lost Planet game is going to sell 50 million day one. They're actually going to launch it alongside GTA, so I wouldn't worry about that. Then,
to be honest,
Capcom
Jordan,
will take over the world.
You might joke, but of all the Capcom franchises, I reckon I would put Lost Planet quite high on the list of ones that I wouldn't be surprised to come back.
This is their hubris era. Everything they're doing is successful. Now they're going to bring back the absolute mince.
Because there's the stuff the nerds want to come back, right? Like, I'd love to see a new Rival Schools.
Yeah.
And for me, as a Street Fighter fan, I would love to see all the weird games that are in the Street Fighter universe but aren't Street Fighter games come back. So Rival Schools.
I think who's the guy I interviewed who's with Tencent now at Lightspeed?
Itsuno.
Yeah, Itsuno wouldn't sharp about that.
Rival Schools he loves.
On it. Yeah.
We had this whole, when DMC 5 came out, they had a launch party in London, because the first level of that game is in London, right? And I stood and spoke to him for like, I knew he wasn't making Street Fighter 6 because he and I had like an hour-long conversation over beers about what his version of Street Fighter 6 would be. And I was like, well, you're clearly not doing it if you're telling me all this, which obviously he wasn't. But it was all about, I want to unite all the universes. I want to Final Fight, Rival Schools, Street Fighter. I want to bring them all together. But I think Lost Planet stands a pretty good... I think Lost Planet stands a better chance than like Darkstalkers, Power Stone.
Power Stone, now we're talking.
God Hand.
Beautiful Joe. Maybe that one actually stands a chance now.
Kamiya says to me all the time that he's got like the idea for the next game in his head. He wants to do it. In fact, I think they cut that from an interview I did.
Wow, you've just
and then he's definitely told some Japanese. He's definitely told some Japanese press since. It's one of them.
Bring back Steel Battalion.
He said he wants to do. He loves Beautiful Joe.
I feel like I should try and find the Kamiya glasses and then rock up to SGF with the Kamiya glasses.
I've still not seen him in my hat that I got him.
That's a good point.
He was talking about on YouTube about how he had a Union Jack hat that he loved and he lost it. So I tracked down this hat and I got it for him. Not seen him in it yet.
I genuinely think if I got the Kamiya glasses, get rid of the tash, and just had this thing, I could cut about SGF, and at least two very stupid Americans would come up to me and ask me for a picture. I think that's Patreon content.
I think you absolutely could do a cameo.
Yeah. Oh, well, maybe if we can't afford them for SGF Live, there's a spoiler. We're actually doing SGF Live next year. Jeff's retiring. We're hosting the show, and we're going to close the show with the name of the game, the number one podcast at video game quiz. I read a series of clues pertaining to the name of a video game. Each of my contestants gets one guess per clue. In order to register a guess, they must say stop. They cannot guess again until the next clue has been read. Okay. This game was released on the 20th of June, 2003. For PlayStation 2, Windows, and Mac OS X.
Mac.
Any initial 2003, a vintage year for games.
PlayStation 2.
PlayStation 2,
okay,
Windows, and Mac OS X.
That's taken away the thing that I was thinking about.
Okay, I will continue. This game was published by Eidos Interactive.
Tomb Raider Underworld, was it called?
I'm going to need you to say stop. I must be very...
Stop, Tomb Raider Underworld.
Incorrect.
Okay. I don't even know if that is legitimately the title of a Tomb Raider game, but I think it is.
Andy?
No, I'm trying my best to think of IDOS games from 2003.
It's an IDOS game from 2003, and your next clue is it is the 6th installment in a franchise.
So it is a Tomb Raider game.
It's a straight shootout now.
Tomb Raider Legend. Stop, Tomb Raider Legend.
Incorrect.
Stop.
Andy?
I can't remember bloody Tomb Raider games. Because the anniversary came out way later. Because I was on magazines at that point.
Mm.
Oh, what crap Tomb Raider games? Because that's the real, that's the real tripe era of Tomb Raider, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
God, because Angel of Darkness was a Dreamcast one, wasn't it?
Was that the one? What was the one that everyone hated?
What was the one everyone hated?
Because was this the one where you spent half of it playing as like some other dude, and everyone despised it? Was that this one?
Well, the next clue was going to be that this game has a 49 on Metacritic, 52 for the PS2 version.
That's honking.
Still managed a 78 from Games Radar Plus. Tells you all you need to know.
I don't think Games Radar existed then.
PS2.
I don't know. I haven't got a clue.
I don't think I'd have it on the
I
shelf.
love how you're looking on your shelf for a 43 Metacritic game.
I've got some absolute honkers on this shelf, to be fair.
Yeah, I think we call it I'm all out.
Alex, would you like another guess before I reveal
Andy
the name
never
of the
actually
game?
guessed, so let me just say stop Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness in case it is that.
Andy, you silly bastard. That's the name of the game. Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness.
I'm the moral winner though, right?
No, the rules are you have to say stop.
No, but I actually got it right.
Tomb Raider.
I thought it came out on Dreamcast.
Nope, PS2, Windows, Mac OS X.
I knew that was the one that everyone hated. I
Wikipedia.
dated it earlier than that.
What a game.
What's the one on Dreamcast? No. They just put it. It was 4, wasn't it? That was on Dreamcast. Last Revelation.
My God, there is some amount of shitey Tomb Raider games. That's really quite
This
impressive.
is what I mean. This is.
I gotta be honest. I think the vast majority of them are shitey.
Yeah.
I never really understood the adoration for Tomb Raider until
you saw it in the flesh and you went, whoa!
Until the one after this, where they did the sort of when Crystal took over and they did Legend and Anniversary and Underworld, and then they did obviously the gritty reboot, and I didn't like the gritty reboot either. But that middle period, I never understood. Tomb Raider 1, I always used to look at it and go, why would you want to play this when you can play Die Hard Trilogy? The Die Hard 1 level in Die Hard Trilogy, where you're running around very similar with someone doing a really bad impersonation of Bruce Willis for the voiceover. A really bad. Honestly, I recommend listeners look that up. The voiceover, the guy doing the Bruce Willis voice in that game it's quite something. It's very impressive.
Fellow bald Bruce Willis. Andy, you're jetting off tonight. Is that absolutely true, or is it tomorrow? Yeah.
I'm going tonight with my big face mask on.
How long are you there for?
I'm going for a week. I had the choice of either there's 2 Premier League games left, and I had tickets for Newcastle away, which I've had to give up. So it was either miss Newcastle away or miss the last game of the season, and I can't miss the last game of the season. Whichever one I miss will win.
Yeah.
No. Actually, that's not true. Actually,
I was about to say your Japan
updated
streak.
my watching West Ham in Japan league table. It's really bad. It's really really bad. Like I actually went through and like made it properly, right? Mm-hmm. it's how many losses? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 losses, 1 win, which was in 2009, and a draw in 2023. There's a win just to like cement my my hoodoo, right? There was in 2024 there was a win, but I didn't watch it. I slept through it. And last year there was a draw, and I didn't watch that either.
Where do you just tend to go to the hub?
Yeah.
No West Ham pubs in
it's about
Japan?
football. I thought that was just a general question.
Well, yeah. Well, I know that we end up in the hub. That is sort of the. But
I've packed my hub membership card.
Good.
It's ready.
You've got to get your 5% off, man.
Yeah, well, for people following along,
Konnichiwa.
Chris Scullion will also be in Japan next week alongside Andy, meaning that this is truly Home Alone. I am the Kevin McAllister of VGC next week. Just as well, there's not a very strong chance to drop the GTA trailer next week. That'll be some laugh.
It's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah, while you two are like underground or steaming or whatever happens.
I do think that that Best Buy thing is bollocks. I just think it's just a company setting stuff in their internal CMS.
Yeah. Alex, you want to do some freelance news shifts next week? I know you're absolutely potless.
No,
help.
I'm going to go to the premiere of First Light. That's my main thing my only big thing I'm doing next week. Gonna put the tuxedo on and
take a gun with you.
There is a you probably can't see it on the thing. There is a screen accurate Wolfer PPK with a silencer on up there. It's obviously not a real one, but you know.
Your Honour. Okay, no freelance news shifts, but do you want to do some unpaid podcast shifts next Friday?
I'm sure I can poke my head in and give you a hand.
Good. And then we'll start the podcast. Thank you very much for listening to VGC the Video Game Podcast. You can support us over at patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle. Lots of stuff coming next week. Reviews. They two are in Japan. God knows what will happen with the website. With me at captain, I'm sure it'll be green and white after Celtic win the league on Saturday. But until next time, say goodbye, Alex.
But goodbye.
Say goodbye, Andy.
Bye.
Come on, the Celtic, and we'll see you next week. VGC is supported by Patreon. Check out patreon.com/Video Games Chronicle for more podcasts, ad-free browsing, and extra content. Thank you for your support.